What if I told you that Ferrari's biggest problem is not speed? Hamilton has launched an internal bomb, and Vasseur already prepares changes that could radically alter the future of the team. What is really happening inside Ferrari? The arrival of Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari in 2025 was one of the most shocking movements of the pilot market in recent years. Hamilton has been clear and direct. Do not trust the car. And that, in the mouth of one of the best pilots of all time, is not simply a complaint. It is a red alert. From the first preseason test, the SF25 showed worrying signs. The lack of stability in the rear forced the pilot to make constant adjustments with the steering wheel in full curve, a sign that the suspension did not correctly absorb load transfers. At a technical level, this translates into a loss of adhesion at key moments, especially in traction phases at the exit of slow curves or rapid curves where aerodynamic load is maximum. The problem is not new to Hamilton. In 2024, he had already experienced a break in the front suspension system in the Americas circuit, during the sprint formation, an incident that completely ruined its weekend and exposed one of the weaknesses of the Mercedes car. But what happens now in Ferrari is even more delicate. The defect is not presented as an exception, but as a constant pattern that has affected its trust from the first race in Australia. During the practice sessions, Hamilton has reported a constant sensation of instability when entering curve, something that contrasts with the surgical precision to which he was accustomed to Mercedes. This loss of subjective but repeated control has made the British begin to doubt the complete suspension system, and therefore of the technical direction that Ferrari took in the development of SF25. The statements after the Spanish Grand Prix were devastating. Hamilton described the experience as one of the most frustrating of his career, even declaring that he had never had such little feeling with the general balance of a car. This situation generates a dangerous paradox. Hamilton is a pilot who, when he finds confidence in his machine, can squeeze 10th impossible in each curve. But when that trust breaks, even small errors are amplified, the maneuver margin is reduced and performance collapses. In that state, not only the pilot is affected, but all the emotional and technical gear of a team that already operates under historical pressure. To this is added another fundamental element, the driving style. Hamilton has admitted that he has had to modify his approach to the wheel to adapt to SF25. This includes changes in the braking points, the way of entering curve, and the exact moment in which the accelerator must apply. Adapting to a completely new car is a challenge in any circumstance, but doing so while fighting for results, in front of rivals that already have years of continuity in their respective structures, makes it an almost Herculean challenge. The relationship between pilot and machine is one of the most sacred in this sport. And when that relationship is based on distrust from the beginning, the margin to build a competitive season is drastically reduced. Ferrari knows. Hamilton feels it. And now, everyone is seeing it. Fred Vasseur is no stranger to chaos. Since he assumed the direction of Ferrari, his mandate has been marked by a constant duality: to calm the agitated waters of Maranello while driving deep technical transformations in a structure that has historically been resistant to change. Your mission is not simple. Bringing Ferrari again to the top of motor racing implies dismantling decades of operational inertia, overcoming the huge media pressures that are only lived in Italy, and now solving an internal fracture between the technical team and its new great star, Lewis Hamilton. The current technical situation is unsustainable. The SF25 has evidenced a structural failure in the design of the rear suspension, a critical area that compromises traction, curve stability, and pilot's confidence. The internal data, together with the comments of Hamilton and Leclerc himself, have stated that it is not an adjustable setup problem between sessions, but a wrong conception from the base. In terms of vehicular dynamics, the lack of torsional stiffness and rapid compressions oscillation generate unpredictable responses in the rear of the car, a nightmare for any pilot in competition. Vasseur has been one of the first to recognize that this problem needs an immediate response, not at the end of the season, but now. Therefore, in the technical bosom of Ferrari, several paths are already being evaluated, from a modification of the suspension scheme, which can include a redesign of the geometry of the triangles and anchor points, to a structural reinforcement of the gearbox that serves as the strongest support for the rear set. These are not minor decisions. They involve completely rethink the correlation between simulator, wind, and track tunnel, and do it while the season continues its course. But the background problem is even more complex. Ferrari is not only facing a technical crisis, but also an identity. Should the Hamilton-style car adapt, who clearly needs a more stable and predictable base to maximize its performance? Or should the technical approach that have been designed around Leclerc be maintained, whose ability to handle unstable cars has been an advantage in the past? Vasseur must decide not only about the technical direction of the team, but about the internal leadership model that will consolidate for the coming years. There is also a long-term strategic dimension. If Ferrari does not solve this crisis quickly and efficiently, runs the risk of eroding Hamilton's motivation, which could translate into a low-performance cycle and internal tensions reminiscent of the worst years of the team. Vasseur knows that he needs to demonstrate authority, technical vision, and reaction capacity. Each Grand Prix that passes without a real solution will be a sentence against the credibility of the project that promised to lead. And while all this happens, the rivals do not expect. McLaren advances with an extraordinarily balanced car. Red Bull, despite his internal crisis, still has Verstappen taking magical tenths. Mercedes begins to recover the rhythm. Ferrari is not only at a technical crossroads, it is in a race against time. And Vasseur, more than ever, needs to be the strategist that transforms the potential disaster into an opportunity for historical redemption for Maranello. In a sport where the tenths of second make the difference between glory and oblivion, the human factor remains one of the most decisive variables. Formula One is not only a machine duel or a technological exhibition. It is, above all, a war of trust. And when the trust between an elite pilot and his car breaks, the entire performance scaffolding falls apart. In the case of Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari, which began as an ideal synergy, expectation is becoming an emotional crack that threatens to overshadow the entire season. Lewis Hamilton is not just any pilot. He is a champion forged in pressure, molded by adversity and defined by a constant search for technical perfection. His transition to Ferrari was not a simple team change, it was a declaration of intentions, to demonstrate that it still has the ability to lead to a historical team to the top. But every session, every return, every stand where the car does not respond as he expects, erodes that determination. This disconnection between its talent and the response of the SF25 not only affects the stopwatch, but its mood, its relationship with engineers, and their integration with the Ferrari ecosystem. The symptoms are visible. On radio, its tone is more rough, the most frontal criticisms. In the paddock, the gestures and looks become more calculated. Hamilton is not simply uncomfortable, it is frustrated. And that frustration is contagious. Filters tension to technicians, fragments internal communication, and slows down the process of evolution of the car. In an environment where each team member must operate with absolute synchrony, any fracture in the emotional structure is magnified. The psychological load of knowing that the right tools are not available is a difficult slab to support, even for the biggest. At the same time, Charles Leclerc, although less vocal, also faces his own dilemma. His leadership within the team, which seemed consolidated after years being Ferrari's technical and emotional reference, is now shared with an even more media figure. The internal power balance has moved. And although both pilots claim to have a cordial relationship, competitive tension is inevitable. Ferrari has opted for an explosive duo, but that bet requires millimeter egos management. Otherwise, cross-interests can sabotage any technical progress. Looking to the future, Ferrari faces an existential decision. Radically reformulated or resigned to repeat the mistakes that have condemned them in past seasons. The issue is no longer just technique. It is philosophical. Is Ferrari ready to adapt its culture to the needs of a pilot like Hamilton? Or will it continue prioritizing internal tradition over tactical flexibility? Because without a revolution in the way of operating, the risk is not only to lose races, but to lose the soul of the project. What we are seeing with Hamilton and Ferrari in this early stage of the 2025 season is not a simple technical pothole, it is a turning point. A bifurcation on the path that could lead to a historical resurrection or an irreparable disenchantment. This story has all the elements of a modern epic of Formula One. The legend that comes with the aura of champion, the iconic team that struggles to resurface, and the invisible conflict that is fought under the body, between mechanical components that do not respond and strategic decisions that are yet to be taken. But the big question is still in the air. Can Ferrari give Hamilton a car that allows you to compete on equal terms against an increasingly consolidated McLaren, a Mercedes in accelerated reconstruction, and a Red Bull that, despite its internal problems, still has the talent of Verstappen as a shield? Will Vasseur be able to lead a structural and technical transformation without the delicate balance between its two-star pilots? And what happens if the solution does not arrive on time? This story, which began as a celebration of the talent gathered, is mutating in a complex battle where the human factor, engineering decisions, and domestic policy play as much as aerodynamics and DRS. And the most fascinating thing is that we are barely starting the season. The pieces are already on the board, but the next movements will define the legacy of this project. Because when the pilot does not trust his machine, and the machine does not respond to the pilot, time becomes the greatest enemy. Now it's your turn. Do you think Ferrari will react on time and manage to reconnect with Hamilton's ambition? Or are we facing a new episode in the long list of frustrations that has accompanied the Scuderia in recent years? Share your opinion in the comments.